Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be making this cute and flirty dress. For this dress you are going to need about 2 meters of fabric to be safe, and also I want you to know that with this pattern the seam allowance is automatically included. It is 0.5 inches, half an inch. So when you are printing your pattern, you have the option of just printing one layer, which is printing one size, but this is only available on Adobe Acrobat. So you're going to click those stacked pages and then it's going to reveal the layers, and then you just click the eyes to disable the layers that you don't want and then keep the ones that you do. I'm keeping extra small because that is my size. Yeah, so make sure you check out the size chart, but I'm an extra small. So let's go on to printing the actual pattern. So you want to make sure that you are printing at 100% scale, or you just select actual size. Print the first page out, measure the box, make sure it is 2 inches wide, and also here is the layout of the pages when you are sticking them together. Now I'm going to grab my pages and I'm going to snip the right side and the bottom, and then I am going to overlap my pages together, remembering the layout on the first page that we saw, right? So it's supposed to be 6 pages for each row. Yeah, for each row, 6 pages for each row, or 6 columns basically. So here's my fabric that I'm using. I don't know what the name of this fabric is, but it is a suede material. Got it from the fabric store, but my fabric store does not know what they call it, but they just have it. It's amazing. It's like this luxurious suede material. And here is my zipper. You do not need a zipper that is this long. You need a zipper that is going to, in total we used about 10 inches of the zip, let me just say that. So just aim for something that's about 10 inches long. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut my fabric. I'm starting with cutting from the leftover fabric I have of this. Then I'm going to cut my skirt pieces off from the fabric that you guys saw. So I'm cutting along the selvage. Everything that you need to know as it pertains to how to cut your fabric, I will leave a link to a helpful video that talks about selvages, biases, grain line, all of that good stuff. But I'm cutting along the selvage, and yeah, so cut. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut my skirt pieces. Basically my skirt pieces are 2 rectangles. They're kind of angled. They are angled rectangles, but you know what, you don't have to print this part. You can just cut 2 rectangles that are twice the size of your waist basically. So I'm gonna cut my front piece on fold, then I'm going to cut my back pieces. The back pieces for your top and also the back pieces for your skirt have a 1 inch zipper allowance, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do to the skirt piece, because for the skirt piece we're going to need 1.5 inches. You'll see why, but anyway, let's focus on this. You're going to take your top piece and you're going to trace that dot because it is a bit curved, right? We want the dot to lay flat and not be so boxy. That's why we have that curve. So trace that, and then I'm going to hand stitch my dot before I take it to the sewing machine. Hand stitching it makes it easier because of that curve, right? If I didn't have the curve I wouldn't hand stitch it. I would just pin it, take it to my sewing machine, sew it, and call it a day. But because of that curve, and I'm trying to capture that curve, I'm going to hand stitch it first. So when you're done hand stitching, straight to the sewing machine and just sew it. When I'm done with that, I'm going to take my back piece, right, and I'm going to put it right sides together with my front piece and pin it at the side seams. Now it may seem like your back piece, the side seam or your back piece is longer than your front piece. It's not. You just have to sew it at that half an inch seam allowance, and you will notice that everything will line up perfectly. The reason why that back piece seems longer is because of the angle. You know what I'm saying? The angle of the back piece kind of makes it seem like it's longer, but when you overlap them by 0.5 inches, everything will line up perfectly. everything should line up perfectly. So do not panic when you see that, oh my goodness, my back is a bit longer. No, don't worry. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my straps. I made the straps behind the scenes. The reason why I did not include the scene for the straps is it was making my video way too long. This video was about 40 minutes, so I wanted to just cut everything down. So here I've stuck my straps onto the front side of my front piece, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just now pin the other piece right sides together, the other front piece right sides together, and now I'm just sewing it at the neckline only. Leave the armhole, leave the back, we're just doing the neckline. So when you're done with the neckline, what you want to do is you're going to first clip that curve on that neckline so that it can release the tension and make it lay nice and flat. Then you're going to take it and press it with your iron. Now you're going to top stitch. I will leave a link in the description for how to top stitch, but basically when you are top stitching is you push your seam allowance towards the lining fabric and you are going to stitch close to the edge on the lining fabric, making sure that you are catching the seam allowance beneath. Like I said, I will leave a helpful video on how to top stitch. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing with our armhole, right? So I first stuck my strap on, the rest of my strap, curved it, not curved it, just basically I put the strap onto the back. Your back piece will have an indication on where to place your strap. So put the strap on, and then I'm going to fold the other piece onto it, right sides together, pin everything, and then I'm going to stitch from the top of that strap at the neckline all the way to the center back. And then I am going to do the exact same thing that I did for the neckline. I'm going to go ahead and obviously clip the curve under the armhole, clip the curve, and then after clipping it, we're going to take it and do another top stitch, aka H stitch, however you know it. That's what we're going to do. So I know I did skip over that part, but basically, like I said, you're just gonna clip the armhole like exactly the same thing you did for your neckline, right? Now let's go and do your skirt piece. So your skirt piece is you're gonna take your front piece and your back piece, put them wrong sides together, and then stitch about a quarter inch seam allowance, and then you're going to snip the rest off. We are just doing a French seam. I will leave a link in the description box on how to do a flawless French seam, but that's what we're doing. So I'm cutting the excess off, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that seam up and then press it with an iron, and then fold it and then press it again. So this is what it should look like. My seam allowance is inside there, so I'm putting the pieces right sides together. Now there's my seam allowance, right sides together, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch my another quarter inch seam allowance, and then stitch this stitch. You don't have to worry too much about the seam allowance part because it is a ruched skirt, so you will have enough, you know, seam allowance for everything, so don't be too critical about it. Anyway, after I've done my French seam, what I'm going to do is I'm now going to hem my skirt, and how I do that is I'm going to I'm first going to fold once, press it down, and then fold it again, and then pin it, right? Press it down and pin it. So basically this is what you want to do, right, for your hemming, and then you're going to go ahead and just stitch that down. So when you're done hemming your dress, your skirt, it would look something like this. Make sure everything is nice and straight. It just makes it look so professional. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 basting stitches. So to do your basting stitches, you are going to need to set your sewing machine to the widest stitch length, and also make sure that your tension is at 0. Then you are going to go ahead and stitch 2 lines, 2 basting stitches, and then grab 2 of those threads. Choose from the front or from the back, but grab the 2 and then just start gathering the fabric. So when I'm done gathering my fabric, I took the front top, the top of the dress, and then what I'm doing is I'm trying to measure if the length is right. So I'm matching my skirt seam, my skirt side seam, with the side seam of my top. I'm just gonna align everything and just pin it. We're not gonna stitch it yet. I want to show you guys why I said we are going to need 1.5 zipper allowance for the skirt and only 1 inch zipper allowance for the top. I'm going to show you why. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure my gathers are equally distributed, and then when I get to that back piece, I want to make sure that my skirt is an extra 1/2 inch longer than the top, right? Because we are going to hem it, and how we are going to hem it is we're going to do the same exact thing that we did for the bottom, which is we are going to double fold and then stitch it down. If you wanted to, the reason why I'm doing this is because we're going to be adding a zipper, right? If you wanted to, you could just fold it in once and then hem it, but I recommend folding it twice like that, and then stitching it down, and then we're going to go ahead and add our zipper in. Well, not yet, but this is how we do that. So now when I'm done with that, what I'm going to do is I am going to just now pin my skirt. The right side of your skirt should be facing the right side of your front piece. Your front piece would obviously be the one that is not, what is it, the one that is not top stitched. That would be your front. So pin everything together, making sure you lined up those side seams, right? And then I'm just going to stitch it now onto the front piece. Do not worry about the lining piece just yet. So now what I'm going to do is I folded my skirt right sides together, and now I'm closing the skirt, right? So go ahead, pin everything. I'm going to close it, and I'm going to do a basting stitch all the way from the bottom to the top, right? The reason why I'm doing this basting stitch like this, because I'm going to fit the dress. This is where you're going to fit the dress. See if you're comfortable with how tight it is or whatever, and then we are going to insert our zipper. So this is going to be our first basting stitch. The stitch is going to be about 1 inch away like that. I think I'm going to show you guys properly now. So this is how I did it. So I stitched all the way from the bottom to the top, and you see when I turn it inside out like that, I'm gonna now go and squeeze it in. Squeeze it from the, wear it from the top going down, not from down going to the top, right? Because it will kind of, you know, that stitch is going to rip. But that's what I did. I fit the dress, and I was happy with having a 1 inch zipper allowance. Everything just fit nice and, you know, snug. I was happy with it. Basically, that's what you want to do. So now I'm unraveling that stitch, and remember, I did press that seam allowance. I did press it down, so now I have that crease that is going to act as a guideline onto where I need to, how close it needs to be to my zipper feet, you know, my zipper teeth. So yeah, from the waistline going down, I am going to measure about 5 inches, and that's where my zipper is going to stop. So the zipper is going to start obviously at the top of that back, the top back. It's going to start there and it's going to go all the way down, and then an additional 5 inches after the waist. Hence why I said you didn't need a zipper that long. Originally I wasn't going to make this, I wasn't planning on making this dress. I was planning on making a different dress, and that dress needed a really long zipper. But then I was like, you know what, let me just make this one with this fabric. So hence why my zipper is just extra long. Anyway, you guys don't need that extra details, but you know, what can I say? I talk too much. Anyway, now I'm pinning my zipper onto that seam allowance, and then I'm going to stitch the zipper down. If you're not sure on how to sew a zipper, I will leave a link in the description to a helpful video that I think might help you, but also you can just watch what I'm doing. Sewing a zipper can be like very intimidating, but I promise you it is so easy and it's so convenient, and it's just, it makes life so much easier. It's the easiest thing, but it's quite expensive. I mean, loops are always the cheapest option, but we also like putting a zipper in there. My other favorite closure is eyelets, because I like to make a lot of like tops that are boned, like corset tops, so I love me a good eyelet. But yeah, a zipper is also very easy. I think for my next tutorial I'm definitely going to do an invisible zipper, but that's how you're doing it. So we're gonna, you know, hand stitch it, and then I'm going ahead and then I'm stitching it down for real using my zipper foot. Definitely invest in a zipper foot. I've tried sewing zippers without a zipper foot. Yeah, you know, it's doable, it's possible, but it is, yeah, you're gonna have to work hard. You can do it, but just get a zipper foot. They're not that expensive. I mean, if you have a sewing machine, you know, then I am going to assume that you do kind of have a little bit of the funds. They're not that expensive. Yeah, so get it. So here's my zipper, and then I'm going to quickly stitch in the other side of the zipper. At this point, guys, we are almost done. It's like, this is a 5-hour project. If it takes you more than 5 hours to do this dress, something is a bit wrong. So anyway, I'm gonna go and stitch the other side of my zipper, and then when I'm done stitching the other side of my zipper, later on I will be taking out those basting stitches. So what I want to do is I'm going to now cut off those extra flaps on the zipper, cut them off. Now here's the trick. You're going to take your lining, right? You're going to take that lining and you are going to fold it over that zipper like that. Just fold it over, and then you are going to pin it. And then when you are stitching down, this part is very important. Do not make this mistake. You are going to stitch all the way up until you reach that waist seam. So go down, and then when you get to the waist seam, I know my hands are in the way, I am so sorry. So when you get to the waist seam, stop, right? Stop, and then, you know, double stitch. And then what you're going to do is you are going to, I'm tying that excess thread, tie it, and then what you're going to do is you are then going to fold that excess. You see that little extra that's remaining there, you are going to fold it towards the other direction. So you're going to fold it going towards the up side. Basically, just look at how I folded it exactly like this. You'll see why we're doing this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip off that corner so I can turn that zipper inside out smoothly. So go ahead, turn it inside out, and then voila, that's how that's supposed to look. But anyway, let's quickly do the end of the zipper. So I'm just doing a couple of straight stitches back and forth to make sure that my zipper doesn't ever fall out, and then I'm going to cut the excess zipper. This was such a waste of a zipper. Oh my goodness. Please try and get the right size of a zipper so that you don't have to waste your stuff. Anyway, what I'm doing is you'll notice that the inside of your dress will obviously be loose. The lining will be loose. So what you want to do is you're going to fold it in once, which is why I wanted you to, when you were sewing the zipper, remember I asked you to stop at the waist and then fold that excess seam allowance. That's why I wanted you to fold it in, so that it can give you a guide on just how to now fold the rest of the lining inwards, and then you are going to hand stitch it. There is no way that I can tell you there's no trick. I don't know any trick that you can use to stitch this with a sewing machine and still be able to turn it inside out. I've tried, and yeah, it never works out. So you're going to have to hand stitch this part, but it's the end. And yeah, take your time with this part because you don't want to mess it up when you're so close to the end. Anyway, that is the end of the sewing tutorial. Obviously, remove your basting stitches from your zipper, etc., and you will be fine. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to comment. Tell me what you think of the video. When you guys don't comment on the videos, I don't know if I'm doing the videos right or doing the videos wrong. So I'm just going to assume. Most of my videos, I just take the critiques from my Etsy reviews and I try to apply that. So definitely comment. Tell me what you think. And if you guys are interested in seeing how I draft my patterns, do let me know. Every week, I think I'll pick 1 or 2 patterns that I make, and I'll show you exactly how I draft them and all the different principles that I use. Anyway, bye. Motivating force within.